now you are being detained.
For what?
You're obstructing an investigation.
An investigation into a traffic signal. There's a whole investigation on a traffic signal, by the way. This is IFPD right now, just yanking, and they reached in, unlocked the door, and grabbed him out.
I didn't say I wouldn't tell you my name. Okay.
Yeah, you refused.
No, I didn't.
It would have been, I was going to give you a warning, and you turned this into a much bigger deal than it needed to be.
I was asked to provide license, registration, insurance, not just his name. She never asked just his name. Now we're actually, technically her and I are being detained against our will because we can't leave because there's people with guns around us and we can't do anything.
526, what? 77.
And there's 1, 2, how many? Oh, there's a ton of them now, just for a turn signal. That's crazy. But that's okay because we'll file all of this wherever we need to.
Josh, do you have any questions about what's going on? Nope.
Crazy. This is what IFPD does.
No, you don't have any questions, or no, that's not Lauren. Both. Okay.
And that's great.
What's going on is my fucking house is being targeted and harassed. Which house is yours? This one?
This one,
This one?
1310.
Oh, she already knows the address, of course.
You guys.
For a turn signal, this many people? That's crazy.
That's what.
Look, oh, there's another one. How insane. For nothing. For a turn signal, this many cops. Look at all of them. One. See all their badge numbers and everything. Most likely. We won't get all the information, but try.
Warrants or what, man? Nope. What's the deal? There's no deal. Huh? No deal. No deal. We're tired of looking. All of us getting, every time we come in and out of my house, we get pulled over. And we cooperate. We're not doing anything.
The law states that, by the way, that they can't just reach in your vehicle and unlock it and yank you out of it for no reason. Especially if it's for a turn signal investigation, but that's okay.
Actually, in my personal vehicle. What about it? It's a personal vehicle.
I can record this. I'm allowed to.
I know.
Okay, thanks.
Can I get some ID?
No, I don't need to give you my ID because there's no reason for it.
So,
I don't have to give you my ID.
hold on.
You're wearing a seatbelt,
You're
yes
wearing
you
a
do.
seatbelt. That's an infraction. You need to give me your ID.
No, I don't need to give you my ID.
Yes you do.
No, I don't.
We need to put
Under
that
the law,
You're going to end up in the same situation.
under the law, I don't have to give you my ID
Okay.
because I don't have to.
I just told you, you failed to identify yourself.
How do you know I wasn't wearing a seatbelt? I've been stopped for a while.
Since we were over here.
How do you know that?
Because I was on the passenger side this whole time.
Yeah,
We're
but
about
we
to
just
break
pulled
the
up
window.
to go
Ma'am,
to.
open the door.
If you break that window and get glass all over me and hurt me like that, I will sue the shit out of you.
Listen, he does not want his window broken.
Okay.
Please unlock your door.
Just
or
open
we're
the
gonna break
door.
window.
Wow, I hope all of you get in deep shit. Don't give me the 1-2 countdown anyway.
Okay, step out
That's
of the car.
bullshit.
Get out of the car.
So, I'm not acting like a kid. I'm acting like a citizen without any rights, obviously, because I'm being yanked out of a car for a seatbelt. If my phone gets broken, I'm suing the shit out of you. Oh, take the phone, of course, because you know that. Hey, stop her. Give me my phone back. Oh my god. It's okay, thanks. Now you guys owe me a phone, too.
Don't.
No, I'm not. Yeah, you just threw my phone for what?
Stop.
For what? Why did you throw my phone? For a seatbelt?
Because you're not
This is for a seatbelt?
Yes.
This is the treatment I get for a seatbelt.
Yes, absolutely.
Ow, you're fucking gonna break my arm. You let go of my fucking arm. I'm not, but you're twisting my fucking arm up so hard that it fucking hurts.
Because you keep resisting.
No, I'm standing here still.
Just relax.
How is this resisting?
Just relax.
I'm relaxed,
Just
but my
relax.
arms are being pulled up beyond what they need to be pulled up.
Because you're not relaxing.
I can't relax with my arms being yanked up like that. What do you want me to do?
Yes, you can.
Relax. That's
That's all you have to do is relax.
I feel safe with a bunch of people with guns around me right now, like attacking me over seatbelts? No.
I know.
If you
So
feel
I'm
you're-
supposed to feel
if you
safe
like
right now?
you're being attacked, then you've got
I am being.
major
I was
problems.
yanked out of a car for a
You
seatbelt.
got
Feel
major
safe
issues.
driving without a seatbelt?
I wasn't
Apparently you
driving.
do.
I wasn't driving, and we just pulled up here. Oh yeah, around the corner. I felt safely that we would get to this corner just fine without the seatbelt, so
Did
I
somebody
took it
get
off.
your ID, ma'am, or are we going to have to go through this same rigmarole with you? Okay. Do you have an ID
Over
on
a
you?
traffic
Do you have any
Do you have
violation?
anything with your name on it? Do you have like a bank card or
Why are you gonna search me?
library card
Because
or
right
anything?
now you are under arrest for resisting.
For resisting
For
and
failing to
obstructing.
identify.
I don't. I have a knife on my in my
Lauren?
pocket.
Which pocket?
The other one.
That is Lauren.
Your jacket pocket?
Please just calm down.
What's your name?
Okay.
I understand you're frustrated. I understand
And
Josh
this
is
is
frustrated.
harassment, though, because all we're doing
Listen,
is pulling up to a house.
I understand you feel that way, but the
Well,
officers
why are
are
we
trying
being
to
harassed,
they're trying
though?
to explain to you what's going on, but you won't calm down long enough for them
Okay,
to.
well, I would like an
Can I explain it
explanation.
to you?
Yeah, I
Can
would like an
listen.
explanation.
Okay, we were behind you. He failed to signal at the stop sign, and he failed to signal when he pulled over. That's an infraction. If you're pulled over, listen, let me finish. If you're pulled over, you're
getting
required to
molested.
provide your driver's license. All right. I walked up to the passenger side of the vehicle. You were not wearing a seatbelt. Okay?
That's after we had
You're
already pulled
also-
over here.
You're also required to provide identification.
For what? I wasn't
Okay?
I
Because
wasn't
you're
operating
not
a
wearing
vehicle.
seatbelt. Doesn't matter. You're not wearing a seatbelt.
So I have to have identification for not wearing a seatbelt.
Yes, because that's an infraction.
But I took it off because
You're
we were
required
close enough to
to
the house to
identify
where
yourself.
I felt it was okay to take it off because we were going to
Okay.
get out.
Okay, that's
And
besides the point.
Okay, well that is not.
You're required to identify yourself.
I'm required to identify myself or provide an ID. Because I could identify myself.
Either would have been fine.
But you wanted my driver's license.
But why couldn't
That's
you
what
just
I was
say,
asked for.
Okay, but why didn't you say I don't have my ID, but here's my name. Here's my date of birth.
You said I want your driver's license specifically, or we're gonna break your
But
window.
now we're getting petty with it, okay?
Let's split
Okay.
some hairs, okay?
Let's
What? You can't take me to fucking jail
Yes,
for
I
not
can.
Okay. To prove it up, okay? That's okay. Wait, look at it. Wait, no. All I want is
I'm gonna go confirm the warrant.
my phone got broken.
Yeah, do you have any warrants right now? You don't have any warrants or anything? Okay.
The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution says that persons should be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. So, when you're thinking about the Fourth Amendment, based on what I just said, there are three questions that should immediately pop to mind. One, what is a search? Two, what is a seizure? And three, what constitutes unreasonable? That's our Fourth Amendment, and those are the questions that are inherent in any interpretation of the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment is vitally important to our democratic tradition because it protects the central pillar of our democracy, and that is liberty. We are a free and open society. We lionize the notion of liberty in America. And the Fourth Amendment is the amendment to the Constitution that protects that freedom.
East Idaho Newsmakers is brought to you by the Bank of Commerce, your bank of a lifetime.
This is East Idaho Newsmakers with Nate Eaton.
Welcome to East Idaho Newsmakers. We're glad you're with us today. We are pleased to have the new chief for the Idaho Falls Police Department with us, Chief Bryce Johnson. Took a long trek to get here, coming from Alaska, right?
It's a little ways down, yeah.
Yeah, now had you had any ties to Idaho before you accepted this job?
So my family grew up in the Wasatch Front area in Utah, and we would come up here every summer. We had what we called our cabin in Island Park, probably like all the tourists that you get tired of rolling through town. So we'd spend a week or two there every summer, and Idaho Falls was our base camp, so we'd come here to get our groceries and do all that stuff. So I passed through quite a bit, but it's grown a lot since then.
Yeah.
I had in my mind still little Idaho Falls from 15, 20 years ago, and it's kind of a bigger cosmopolitan town now.
And I'm sure you never would have thought back in those days that you'd be coming back to be the head of the police department. You are coming here from Alaska. Tell us what you did in Alaska, where you were working.
I was the chief of the Juneau Police Department. Juneau, Alaska is the capital city of Alaska. So Alaska is kind of a unique place. If you haven't been there, sometimes people don't understand it. So kind of put Alaska, superimpose it over the continental United States. It kind of stretches from Florida to Washington. It is just immense. Distances are huge. Juneau is actually the second largest city by size in the country. The largest one was a city just south of us that just annexed a bunch of property. So we were number one a few years ago, and we dropped to number two. And so it was just a different type of environment, but it was a dream. You know, we went up there, we lived the dream. It was absolutely wonderful. Glaciers, whales, eagles, bears, oh my. You know, it was just a great place.
So why leave the dream and come here?
We were very happy in Juneau, very happy there. Had family down in this region, and it's difficult to get back. It's expensive, takes a long time. So that was the number one thing. I was very happy in the job, but we wanted to be just a little bit closer to family where we could at least be mom and dad and grandma and grandpa when the need arises. So it was we loved Alaska, but it was a little far from where we wanted to be.
I've never been to Alaska, and when I imagine it, I think of igloos and remote areas with no crime. I imagine that there were serious crimes that you all dealt with. What were the main issues that you dealt with as far as law enforcement's?
So there are remote issues in Alaska, and it's a different law enforcement environment. I don't know if Alaska State Troopers is a kind of a popular reality show everyone's watched. That was not what we did in Juneau. Juneau was actually kind of a urban populated center. We were a very large city, but the people all lived pretty in a concentrated area. So we were doing city police work like you would do in really any city anywhere in America. Domestic violence. Two things unfortunate about Alaska is they lead the nation in suicide and also lead the nation in sexual assault. So we had a lot of mental health issues, a lot of suicide calls, and we handled more sexual assault cases than I would care to ever handle. So a lot of that stuff, drugs are everywhere, heroin, big deal. So we were doing the same stuff that police officers do everywhere else. Except then occasionally a bear would walk into a bar, or I always thought that was a joke when said a bear walked into a bar. No, the bear really did walk into the bar.
Those are the stories we love, because everybody wants to see those.
There's a birthday party going on, and the mom made cupcakes for the birthday party, and the bear must have wanted the cupcake. So the bear went up on top of the house, broke through the sunroof, into the house, and was just really enjoying the cupcakes for the birthday party. Mom and the family come back home. Oh my, there's a bear in the house.
Did they have a camera? Did they get it on camera?
No, so all the officers, we ended up shooting this bear, and before everyone gets mad at me, so the officers showed up, and the bear left the house, and then it was walking between two houses, and there was another house, and there was a child inside that house, 6-7-year-old child, and the door was open, and we couldn't get the kid to close the door, and the bear was going inside the house, so the officer ended up putting that bear down for the safety of the child. Yeah. And I went and talked to the officer, and he's like, "Oh, the bear was huge," and the bear wasn't that big. But when a bear's coming at you, when a bear's coming at you, it looks pretty big.
And so, I can imagine a 6 or 7-year-old.
Stuff like that would have never happened anywhere else. So just fun stuff.
You've been in Idaho now on the job for about 2 weeks, and what have been your observations as far as being in Idaho Falls?
Number one is a really good police department, really good people. Police work is a people business, and there's really good people at the Idaho Falls Police Department. I'm very impressed with that. People know what they're doing. I've talked to the detectives, I've talked to the sergeants, the leaders, the officers, people on records, dispatchers, evidence people, the animal control people, the shelter. They're all know what they're doing, they care about it. They're very good professionals. So I'm very excited to be able to work with a great bunch of people. We're a young police department. I believe we've hired somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 people in the last 4 years, officers on the street. So that's, in the big picture, that's a pretty young police department. So that's exciting, help developing all the programs we're doing. So we're young. Everyone's very excited to go out and do their best and do the right thing and try to give back to their community. So I'm really enjoying being here. It's been a great time. And you threw a big party for me, like on my second day in town. That was awesome. That was
heavenly
great.
Party, right?
Yeah.
The eclipse.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Just for you. Did you bring all the traffic? Because
it was going the other direction.
I don't know if people will say that was a party. When you look out now as you are the leader of the department, what are some things that you want to change, or what's your vision? Where do you foresee the Idaho Falls Police Department going?
So the number one thing I want to change initially is just kind of how we interact with each other internally in the department. How we talk to each other, how we understand each other, kind of how we communicate internally. So we're going to take care of that. The folks are already doing a really good job of doing police work out in the community. I think we just need to the way we communicate internally. And we've already done really good there. There's really good people. So once we get done with that, we'll switch our focus to the external communication, how we interact with the public, how we interact with other folks. And if you talk about vision, we're going to want to be an open police department. I always hesitate to use the word transparent because that brings all sorts of negative connotations depending on your political affiliation. So I intentionally don't say transparent. We're going to be an open police department. You know, we're going to believe in teamwork. We want to work as a team. Community-oriented policing is what we're going to be doing, and we're going to be a values-driven organization. We're going to live by values and have values that guide our decisions and guide our actions. So that's kind of where the vision of the future is.
Speaking of being open and transparent, the media does a lot of dumb stuff. I'll admit that, working in the media.
You don't see me shaking my head. And we all do. You know, isn't that a statement that
we do.
Every profession could make?
And I know here, at least in our organization, we're never out to get the police or, you know, screw anybody over. But what's your view as far as working with the media? Sometimes there can be a hard relationship with law enforcement and the media.
So funny enough, usually local media, you should be able to overcome that because we all live in the same spot and we should be talking together regularly. And so my fundamental assumptions is that you have a job to do, which is an important job, and it's not antagonistic towards us. It's simply you have a job to do, and we just recognize that, and we do our best to get you whatever information you may need to do your job, and that's worked really well. And over years, I think we've been able to develop relationships with people in the media, and you know, we make mistakes every now and again, and you can expect we'll make a mistake. I mean, tell me an organization or a person that doesn't make a mistake, and we'll do our best to copy them. They don't exist, and when we make a mistake, we'll own it and say, yep, that one's on us, and we'll go out and we'll do better. And so locally, I think it can work quite well. National media sometimes a little bit differently because they're not that into relationships. They'll sometimes, if the big thing happens, they can blow into town, and they're not as keen on those relationships. So I don't see it as an adversarial relationship. I see it as you got a job to do, so do we, and often, very often, they line up.
Mm-hmm. One of the issues that the police department has faced for a little while now is the actual facility, the police department itself. It's an aging structure. As chief, I guess, do you have much control over that? Where do you foresee your actual facility here in a couple of years?
Yeah, so I hope so. To be, you know, that was one of the draws for me to come to Idaho Falls, was to be able to make something better than what was already here. You know, I had the luxury in Juneau of someone 15 years ago building a police facility that had really thought, given it some foresight, put a lot of thought and planning into it, and it served the community, it served the department, and it worked really well. And I don't know who that was, and to me that's kind of exciting. If I could come back here 20, 25 years from now, talk to some rookie police officer and say, hey, how's this? Oh, that's really good. Well, you don't know me, but I helped get that, so that's kind of exciting for me. The facility we currently have doesn't really lend itself to community policing. It's difficult there's no public space around the building itself where someone could come and express either their pleasure or their displeasure with the police, because both are important, right? People need to be able to interact with their government, so there's no public space. There's no public space inside the building where we could have those interactions. I think when you first get to the building, you have to go through a magnetometer because it also doubles as a courthouse. And so if you want to come and just talk to your police officer, there's a lot of barriers.
It can be intimidating to.
There's a lot of barriers, and for those reasons alone, I think the facility needs some updating. It's not big enough for the size of the department. I was highly surprised. I'm still learning about, we've got stuff stashed over here, we've got stuff stashed over there. These employees work way over there, these people work way over there. Every day I go out and ride with a sergeant, I find out, oh, we've got something else that we're hiding in a storage shed somewhere because we just don't have any space to put it. Like, oh, well, that's not a long-term solution at all. So yeah, that's something we're gonna need to work on, and I think there's some will to work on that.
Great. Well, we'll take a quick break here. When we come back, I want to get your thoughts on, you know, the state of policing across America. You know, it can be hard to be a police officer these days. So we'll talk about that and much more right after the break.
At the Bank of Commerce, we understand the hard work, determination, and sacrifice it takes to run a successful business. That's why we're here every step of the way to help make your dreams come true. The Bank of Commerce, your bank of a lifetime.
Welcome back. We are pleased to have the new Idaho Falls Police Chief with us today. Chief Bryce Johnson just moved here from Alaska and started on the job two weeks ago. Glad to have you here in Idaho, taking over from Chief Mark McBride, who announced his retirement earlier this year. Let's talk about the state of policing across America. You know, a few months ago, well, I guess it's gone on probably for a year or two now, where police a lot of times are painted as the bad guy.
They are.
Is that, how has that taken a toll on you and your fellow officers?
So number one, I think police make mistakes. I think we need to be honest about that. Every story or video that you see on, we had a conversation earlier about the national media. So every story or video you see that's put out there isn't necessarily a police mistake. There's sometimes a backstory to it. And somewhere we, as a profession, we lost the narrative, because I would propose that over the last 25 years, policing in America has been one of America's greatest success stories. If you look at the rates of use of force, they've gone from up here way down here. There's far fewer instances of use of force than there were 20, 25 years ago. You look at crisis intervention teams, how we interact with people with mental illness. You look at just police behavior in general, things that people were doing 25, 30 years. We all heard about it back in the day, right? Oh, you know, you even think about it, we fire you now for things that people were just blatantly doing 25, 30 years ago. You look at crime rates over the last 25, 30 years, you know, the crime rates in the 70s, 60s, I mean, those crime rates went down, 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 down. And that message has been lost through a few high-profile events that were tragic and bad and wrong. Don't misunderstand me, there's something to be done there as well. But yeah, policing over the last 25 years is a success story. And that's the message I would go out and talk to people. I mean, if you look at what we were doing 25 years ago, this profession has come a long way in that time. Still work to do, but it's exciting. What that media has done, though, is it has made our job quite a bit harder. It's harder to find new officers that want to become police officers, especially in communities that feel victimized by police. And if those communities keep telling those stories and keep reinforcing that negative impression of police, it makes it so people of that community do not want to become a police officer because we're the enemy. And that's what we need, is more a diverse police force, a force that is representative of our community. And so those are all challenges to overcome that we're going to work on over the next as many years as I'm fortunate enough to be here.
And from my observation here in East Idaho, generally people are supportive of the police. There's not an adversarial type of relationship. There obviously are a few people that don't like cops, but generally it seems like a positive relationship. Tell us a little bit about your family.
My family? Well, you got me smiling now.
Yeah, there you go.
How much time do we have?
We have all the time you want.
So I brought two of my family with me here. So my wife Jamie and my daughter Laura came here with me. My daughter is a high school student, so she'll be going to high school here, and we're pretty excited about that. So they're very excited to be here. Then I have a son that is married, living in the Salt Lake area, and they have my two little granddaughters.
So that's obviously probably a draw to get you back from Alaska.
Yeah, we'd like to see them.
Yeah.
I'd like to see my son too, but it's nice to see those little granddaughters. They're 3 years old and a 6-month-old. So.
Great.
And then my older daughter is married as well, and her husband and her living in southern Utah going to school. And I've got a son that lives in Nevada. And so we've got one kid left with us.
One left at home.
Yeah.
And what year will she be in high school?
Junior. She's a junior.
2 years. You know, everyone always likes to ask police officers, what's been the craziest call you've gotten? What's been the most scary situation? So I'll ask you those questions.
Scariest call, you know, it's hard to say scary because when you're in it doing it, it's not scary. It's not till afterwards you start thinking about it. You go, oh wow, that was a little crazy, you know. So you know, I got shot at several times. You know, I've been punched, kicked, bit, spit on, called every name you could possibly think of. That all kind of sometimes goes with the territory. You know, I got a call once. This was when I was working in Salt Lake, of 100 people fighting in the street over a rifle. You know, and I had grown accustomed to people calling with calls like that. Well, it was, you know, probably 2 people arguing over a parking spot, but they really wanted the police to come right away, so they made up all that stuff. So we pull up there, and sure enough, there's 100 people in the street, and they're all fighting. And there's a rifle in the middle of the shirt. And I was like, wow, there really is a lot of people in the whole groups, and you just take off running together. So me and my couple partners, we're chasing all these fighters, and we caught a couple of them, and they ended up, we chased them through some apartments. One jumped out, people jumping out of windows, caught a guy hiding behind a fence and a hedge, and just that was I won't say a fun day. It was an exciting day. It was just people everywhere doing everything. A lot of stuff like that. Some of the real fun stuff is, I had to handle a lot of missing kid calls. Occasionally they're really tragic, but usually we're able to find them and bring in that child back to parents who are just terrified my child's missing. That's always been a real rewarding thing, so I've enjoyed those as well.
You may not have delved much into this because you are new, but there are a few cold cases that every city has.
3 of them, I believe, yeah.
Here in Idaho Falls. What's kind of your view on that? Do you want to stick a fresh pair of eyes on those to try to solve those cold cases, or kind of the guys that have been doing it forever, have them continue on? What are your thoughts?
Combination of both. So you don't want to lose the continuity of what's been done, and I know a little bit about what's been done, and they're dedicated professionals, and they're doing a really good job on that. Having a fresh set of eyes look at stuff, occasionally that's not an insult, that's not a negative thing. Second opinions in every profession is a good thing. So I think it's all of the above. With cold cases, you never quit investigating them. They get worked and they get worked and they get worked until they're not cold cases anymore, until we bring resolution to the families, because we got to remember that behind those cold cases, those are real people. As I get here, it's a file with a name, but there's a real person, a real life story, real family members, real emotions, real life is in that. And so you never give up, you never quit, you keep working those until you bring some resolution and some closure to it.
Well, that'd be cool if all 3 of those could get solved here in the next few years.
Yeah, that would be cool. They're hard, It's not kind of like this magical CSI TV thing that happens. I don't want to give unrealistic expectations. Most jurisdictions have some cold cases that they're working on. But you never give up. And I've seen really old cases solved as well. I've seen some success in that, cases back in the 80s where you'd finally get a break and you're able to solve it. And so it happens, and we're going to work it until it does.
Alrighty. Well, Chief Bryce Johnson, thanks so much for coming in and talking with us this week on East Idaho Newsmakers. I imagine we'll see a lot more of you over the coming years.
I hope so.
We appreciate you coming here. Of course, the city put out a press release kind of with a little bit more detail on your background. We'll link to that so you can read up on Chief Johnson. And we thank all of you for watching. Have a good week.
East Idaho Newsmakers is brought to you by the Bank of Commerce, your bank of a lifetime.